All right, hi you guys. As we're beginning statistics this semester, I wanted to kind of go over the big picture with you guys. And I've given you a link to a GitHub repository where I've put some analysis steps templates. And I may update some things. I'll usually just put a new template with a date so I can keep my old ones too. And I'd probably just look at the most recent one. So here's an example, and my purpose in describing this to you is I don't want to lose sight of the forest for the trees, meaning I don't want you to get lost in the details. So this template and these analysis steps are to try and help us keep sight of the big picture as we're learning how to analyze data this semester. So this template, you're going to notice, has three main sections. There's kind of a section that talks about the study, and there's going to be a section that talks about the data set, and then there's going to be a section that talks about the tests. So I always think of analyzing data similar to building a building. You're going to build the foundation first, you're going to have some kind of structure, and then you're going to have some kind of decoration at the end, shingles on the roof or paint on the walls. Or like writing a story, all stories are going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what is the story that you're going to tell about these data or this analysis? So I will start off, this is kind of your foundation. You need to think about the study first. Who's conducting the study? What's the study called? A due date. What's the general purpose of this analysis? Is this exploratory? Are you confirming a hypothesis? Are you doing quality improvement work? Are you doing this for learning? And then think a little bit about what might be the implications of your purpose here. Are inferences drawn from this study going to be generalizable to other populations? Are you doing a lot of tests? Are there going to be impacts on error rates? Those are just some things to think about. What are the research questions for your study? So research hypotheses are a little different than statistical hypotheses. So it's good to make that distinction. A research hypothesis might be, does this education intervention help people learn better, as opposed to a statistical hypothesis, which we'll talk about during the semester. And then research questions and then hypotheses for the questions. A hypothesis for our research question, I probably misspoke a little earlier, is we believe our intervention improves learning over no intervention. Study designs, we're not going to really talk about study designs during statistics, but be aware that statistics are kind of conducted in the context of a particular study design. Is this an experimental design with control and intervention groups, or quasi-experimental? Again, we're not going to talk really specifics about study design, but this would be something that you should consider. And I've listed one of my favorite study design texts by Chadish, Cook, and Campbell there. What's the IRB status? You want to make sure that your analysis is ethical, and so part of that is understanding IRB requirements and where data come from. When was the study data collected? How was it collected? How were the study data handled? Was care taken in how it was handled? Are there any errors that have been put into the data because of what was done or not done? So those are all good things to understand about a study. Moving on, looking at some specifics about data set information. What are the variables in the data set and the levels of measurement for each one? This is very foundational, but it's very important to understand because certain statistical procedures are done with certain types of variables and certain levels of measurement. So you want to make sure that those things are correct in your data set, so your software can help you select appropriately. Sometimes a software won't let you do certain procedures on certain levels of measurement. So that's something you should check up front. You need to check your data for accuracy. Has that been done? Were there any other additional manipulations that were done before an analysis, like transformations or calculating summary scores on instruments? Do you have missing data? Are there any issues? What are you going to do about it? Do you have any outliers in your data? What are the implications for that, and what are you going to do about it? Have you calculated descriptive statistics on the variables you're using in your study or your analysis? That's always going to be a starting point. And any participant information is going to be reported later. If it is, it's a good time to go and get those descriptive statistics before you complete an analysis, so you understand what you're talking about. And then finally, after all that, you're going to select some statistical tests. And on all statistical tests, you're going to pretty much follow this pattern of what tests are you going to be doing, which variables are going to be used in those particular tests, what are the assumptions, and how do your data fit those assumptions or not fit those assumptions. And then you're going to follow the steps of null hypothesis significance testing and create a null and alternative hypothesis, which are your statistical hypotheses, different than your research hypotheses, and go through your process, which we'll be talking more specifically about. And sometimes people jump ahead. They don't bother to consider some of these foundational things. But, when you think about it, if you have a building and you have failed to build a good foundation, does it really matter what paint you put on the outside of the house or what shingles you put on the roof if the building is about to fall down because the foundation is so poorly constructed? Does it really matter what results you get from a statistical test when the data that test is based on are severely flawed? And the answer is no, it doesn't. So before you ever get into the end steps of conducting a test, the foundational steps of understanding where your data came from, why they were collected, how they were collected, and how the basics are set up are going to make it so that when you finally do conduct a test, that your inferences are going to be correct and have validity. So I know this is a lot of details. We're going to be going over all these things this semester, but I just wanted to give you kind of the big picture of where we're going this semester as we get into some of the details of these individual questions, so you don't lose sight of what we're actually shooting for by the end of the semester, that you will be able to know what information you need to gather and understand, and how that plays into what the test means when you finally do conduct a statistical test. So I hope this helps orient you to where we're going this semester and help you keep in mind some of the important things to consider as we analyze data. And I hope you have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.